held the paper in my trembling hand. 6 words. 6 words that would split my life into before and after. Don't go home. Get away. Run. Hello. My name is Eleanor Hayes, and I live in Wilsonville, a quiet suburb about 20 miles south of Portland, Oregon. I'm 71 years old. I raised 1 son. I buried 1 husband. And until 3 weeks ago, I thought I knew what family meant. I was wrong. Let me start from the beginning, or at least from the morning that changed everything. It was a Tuesday, February 11th. I remember because the clinic always schedules my checkups on Tuesdays. Dr. Elliot had been my physician for almost 18 years. He knew about my arthritis, my cholesterol, the small heart murmur that never seemed to get worse or better. He knew I took my pills on time. He knew I walked 3 miles every morning, rain or shine. What he didn't know, until that day, was what my family was planning. The appointment was routine: blood pressure check, reflex tests, the usual questions about sleep and diet. But Dr. Elliot seemed distracted. He kept glancing at the door. When the nurse stepped out to get paperwork, he moved closer to my chair.
Miss Hayes, he said quietly.
Are you feeling safe at home? The question startled me. Safe? Of course. Why wouldn't I be? He hesitated. His jaw tightened. Your son called me last week, and your daughter-in-law called 3 times before that. My stomach dropped. Brandon called you? They wanted me to sign papers. Medical evaluation stating you're no longer competent to manage your own affairs. He shook his head. I refused. You're as sharp as anyone half your age. But Miss Hayes, they're not giving up. They mentioned nursing homes, power of attorney. They asked very specific questions about your mental state. I sat frozen in that paper gown, suddenly feeling every one of my 71 years. Dr. Elliot wrote something on a prescription pad, tore off the sheet, and folded it twice. Don't open this until you're alone, please. He pressed it into my palm just as the nurse returned. I drove home in a fog. My hands gripped the steering wheel too tight. The paper burned in my coat pocket. Brandon was my whole world. I adopted him when he was 2 years old, after years of failed pregnancies and broken hope. He had his father's smile and my stubbornness. When my husband died 7 years ago, Brandon promised he'd take care of me. He moved his family into my house. Said it made sense. Said we'd save money. Said we'd be stronger together. I believed him. Their cars were in the driveway when I pulled up. Brandon's truck, Vivian's silver sedan, Paisley's little Honda with a cracked bumper. All home, all waiting. The front door opened before I could reach it. Mom! Brandon's voice boomed across the porch. How'd it go? Everything okay? Fine, I said. Just the usual. Vivian appeared behind him, wiping her hands on a towel. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. We were worried. You were gone so long. There was a wait. I lied. Paisley slouched against the hallway wall, scrolling through her phone. She barely glanced up. 17 years old and already perfecting the art of indifference. Dinner's almost ready, Vivian said. Why don't you go rest? You look tired. I wasn't tired, but I nodded anyway and climbed the stairs to my room. I locked the door, sat on the edge of my bed, pulled out the folded paper. 6 words. I read them 5 times, 10 times. My hands shook. My vision blurred. Dr. Elliot wouldn't write something like this as a joke. He was careful, methodical, a man who measured his words like medicine. If he told me to run, there was a reason. I went down to dinner. We ate roasted chicken and rice. Vivian talked about Paisley's college applications. Brandon complained about traffic. Everything seemed normal. Everything felt like a performance. I watched them, really watched them. The way Vivian's smile tightened when I mentioned checking my bank statements. The way Brandon changed the subject when I asked about his job. The way Paisley avoided eye contact entirely. After dinner, I excused myself, said I had a headache. They barely noticed. I lay in bed with the lights off and door locked, waiting. Around midnight, I heard voices downstairs, low and urgent. I crept to the top of the stairs. The kitchen light was on. They thought I was asleep. She's going to ruin everything. Vivian's voice, sharp as glass. We need those papers signed this month, Brandon. This month. I'm trying. My son. My beautiful, beloved son. The doctor won't cooperate.
then find another doctor.
Or we go straight to the nursing home route. She's 71. Who's going to question it?
Silence. Then Paisley spoke,
Her voice small and uncertain.
What if she fights it?
She won't,
Vivian said.
She loves your father too much. She'll go quietly. They always do.
My heart stopped.
Actually stopped.
And the house? Brandon asked.
Already have a buyer lined up.
Cash offer.
Closes in 45 days. The Switzerland account should transfer by March if we push the right buttons. Switzerland. They knew about Switzerland. I backed away from the stairs. 1 step, 2 steps. My breath came in shallow gasps. I made it to my room. Closed the door. Pressed my back against it. They knew everything. Or they thought they did. What they didn't know was that I'd spent 40 years preparing for disaster. My husband taught me that. After his factory closed and we lost nearly everything, we rebuilt slowly, carefully. We squirreled money away in places no one would think to look. Foreign accounts, property in my mother's maiden name, investments hidden in trusts and offshore holdings. Brandon knew about the house. He knew about my pension and savings. He thought that was everything. He was wrong. I sat on my bed until dawn. I didn't sleep. I planned. At 5:30, I heard Brandon's alarm. The shower running. Vivian's voice reminding him about some meeting. The front door closing. His truck pulling away. I waited until 7. Vivian took Paisley to school. The house went silent. I moved fast. I packed 1 suitcase. Essentials only. I gathered documents from my safe. The real safe. The one built into the back of my closet that no one knew existed. Passports. Account numbers. Deeds. Copies of everything. I left a note on the kitchen counter. Short and simple. Gone to visit an old friend for a few days. Don't worry. Love, Mom. Then I walked out of my house, got in my car, and drove. I didn't know where I was going yet, but I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I wasn't running away. I was getting ready to fight back. I drove for 3 hours before I let myself stop. A rest area off Interstate 5. I pulled into a spot far from the other cars, turned off the engine, sat in silence. My phone had been buzzing since 8:30. Brandon. Vivian. Brandon again. I turned it off. Not yet. I wasn't ready yet. I needed a plan. A real one. The first call I made was to my bank in Zurich. The account my husband opened in 1987, back when he still believed American banks could fail. The woman who answered spoke perfect English with a slight German accent.
Miss
Hayes, it's been some time. I need to make a withdrawal, I said. A large one. Of course. How much? $50,000. Transferred to my account in Seattle by tomorrow morning. There was a pause. Just a moment. That can be arranged. May I ask? It's time, I said simply. She understood. I'll process it immediately. The Seattle account was in my mother's maiden name, Vernon. Helen Vernon. Opened in 2003. Brandon had no idea it existed. I drove north instead of south, away from Portland, away from everything familiar. By evening, I was checking into the Harbor View Inn in downtown Portland, not Seattle. Not yet. I needed to stay close enough to watch, far enough to breathe. The room was small, but clean. 12th floor, city view. I stood at the window and watched traffic crawl through rain-slicked streets. My phone was still off, but I'd turned on my laptop, logged into my email. 17 messages from Vivian. Mom, where are you? Brandon is worried sick. This isn't funny. Call us immediately. The last one came at 6 p.m. If you don't respond, we're calling the police. You're not well. We need to know you're safe. I closed the laptop. Let them wonder. That night, I barely slept. I kept seeing Brandon's face, 2 years old, clutching a stuffed rabbit, looking up at me like I was his whole world. I promised him everything. Safety, love, a future. Where did I go wrong? At dawn, I ordered room service. Coffee and toast I couldn't eat. Then I opened my laptop and started searching. Elder Financial Abuse Attorney, Oregon. Private Investigator, Portland. How to protect assets from family. The search results were endless. Thousands of people asking the same questions. Thousands of families tearing themselves apart over money. I wasn't special. I was just next in line. By 9 a.m., I had 3 names written on hotel stationery, 2 lawyers, 1 investigator. I started making calls. The first lawyer's office put me on hold for 15 minutes, then told me he was booked for 3 months. The second never called back. The investigator answered on the first ring. Deacon Investigations. This is Julia. My name is Eleanor Hayes. I said, I need help. Julia Deacon met me at a coffee shop 2 blocks from my hotel. She was younger than I expected, maybe 40, sharp eyes, no wedding ring. She ordered black coffee and got straight to business. Tell me everything. So I did. The doctor's note, the midnight conversation, the Switzerland account, everything. She listened without interrupting, took notes on a small tablet. When I finished, she looked up. Do you have proof of the conversation you overheard? Just my word. Not enough. We need evidence they can't deny. She leaned forward. Are you willing to go back? Wear a wire? My hands went cold. Go back to the house? Not yet. But eventually? Yes. If you want this to hold up legally, we need their words on record. Conspiracy, intent, fraud. She paused. Mrs. Hayes, what exactly do you want from this? Prosecution, protection, both? I stared at my coffee. Steam rose in thin ribbons. I want the truth on record, I said quietly, and I want them to face consequences. Then, we do this right, carefully, and you need a lawyer. A good one. She gave me a name. Galen Maxwell, Manhattan-based but licensed in Oregon, specialized in elder abuse and estate fraud. He's expensive, Julia warned. I can afford it. That afternoon, I spoke with Galen Maxwell over video call. He had gray hair and tired eyes, and the precise way of speaking that comes from years in courtrooms. I told him everything. Again, he took notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, he set down his pen. Mrs. Hayes, I'm going to be direct. What your family is planning constitutes multiple felonies: identity fraud, financial exploitation of a vulnerable person, possibly forgery if they've already started on documents. But prosecution is hard. Families are complicated. Juries are sympathetic to children, even criminal ones. What are you saying? I'm saying we can win, but it won't be easy, and it won't be clean. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Brandon, about holding him for the first time, about every birthday cake, every scraped knee, every promise I'd made. Yes, I said. Then we start immediately. First, we secure everything: assets, documents, communications. Second, we gather evidence. Third, we go on offense. He leaned closer to the camera. But understand this. Once we start, there's no going back. Your relationship with your son ends permanently. The words hung in the air. Heavy. Final. It already ended, I said. I just didn't know it yet. Julia started her investigation the next day. She was fast. Thorough. Within 48 hours, she had preliminary findings. Brandon had lost his job 8 months ago. Not quit. Fired. For falsifying expense reports. He'd taken out 3 payday loans using my name. Forged my signature. Vivian had opened 2 credit cards in my name last year. Both maxed out. And Paisley, sweet, sullen Paisley. She'd posted on social media about her grandmother's loaded Swiss bank accounts and joked about early inheritance. The investigator's report sat on my hotel desk like a bomb. I called Galen. They've already started, I told him. The fraud isn't future tense. It's present. Then we move. Now, I'm filing for an emergency restraining order, and I'm notifying the Oregon Attorney General's office. This is prosecutable, Eleanor. This is criminal. My stomach twisted. My son could go to prison. Your son is already committing crimes. The only question is whether he stops or gets caught. That night, I finally turned on my phone. 43 missed calls, dozens of texts, 1 voicemail from Brandon, his voice shaking. Mom, please. I don't know what's happening. Vivian says you took money. She says you're confused. Just come home. We'll figure this out. Please, Mom. I love you. I listened to it 3 times. Then I saved it. Evidence. The next morning, Galen sent me documents to sign. Restraining order against Brandon, Vivian, and Paisley. Freeze on all joint accounts. Notice to my bank that any transactions required my physical presence with photo ID. I signed everything. By noon, it was done. Court orders were served. My family couldn't access my money. Couldn't come within 500 feet of me. Couldn't use my name on any legal documents. Julia called it too. Eleanor, there's more. Your daughter-in-law has been in contact with a document forger. We traced email exchanges. They were planning to forge a power of attorney and get it notarized by someone on their payroll. It was scheduled for this week. I closed my eyes. This week. If you'd stayed, you'd be in a nursing home by Friday. Legally incompetent. Trapped. Dr. Elliot's note had saved my life. That evening, I stood at my hotel window again. The city lights blurred. My reflection looked back at me. Older, thinner, but not broken. Brandon called one last time. I didn't answer, but I listened to the voicemail later. You're making a mistake, Mom. Vivian says you've been manipulated. Someone's putting ideas in your head. You're not thinking clearly. You need help. We're family. Doesn't that mean anything? I deleted it. Family means loyalty. It means protection. It means love without conditions. What I'd overheard in that kitchen wasn't family. It was theft. Betrayal. Calculation. They'd counted on my silence, on my love, on my weakness. They were wrong about all 3. I sat down at the hotel desk, opened my laptop, started typing an email to Galen Maxwell. I want to move forward with full prosecution. And I want to go public. I want my story told. His response came within minutes. Then let's show them what a 71-year-old woman can do when she stops apologizing for taking up space. I smiled. For the first time in weeks, I actually smiled. This wasn't about revenge. It was about something simpler. It was about teaching my son that some mistakes cost everything, and some mothers know when to stop saving their children from consequences. I wasn't running anymore. I was fighting back. I did something I hadn't done in 40 years. I walked into a salon and asked them to cut off all my hair. The stylist, a young woman named Kira with purple streaks in her bob, looked uncertain. How much are we talking? All of it. Short. Different. She studied my face. You sure? This is a big change. I'm sure. I watched in the mirror as gray hair fell in clumps around the chair. With each cut, I felt lighter, freer. The woman staring back at me looked like someone I'd forgotten existed. Kira styled it into a sleek pixie cut. Modern. Sharp. You look amazing, she said. I barely recognized myself. That was the point. From the salon, I went shopping. Not at the discount stores I'd haunted for years. Real stores. I bought a charcoal gray suit that fit perfectly. Black leather boots with a small heel. A cream silk blouse. A wool coat that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. The saleswoman wrapped everything in tissue paper. Special occasion? You could say that. That night, I stood in front of the hotel mirror. New hair. New clothes. Same 71-year-old face. But somehow it looked different, stronger. Galen called at 8. I have news. Your daughter-in-law listed your house for sale this morning. MLS listing went live at noon. My heart stopped. She can't do that. It's my house. She used forged power of attorney documents. We already have the listing agent on notice. But here's the interesting part. There's an open house scheduled for this Saturday, 2 to 4 p.m. I sat down on the bed. An open house at my house, which gives us an opportunity. His voice was calm, calculated. You could attend. As a prospective buyer, the idea settled over me slowly. They wouldn't recognize me? Would they expect you? You're supposed to be confused, vulnerable, running scared, not walking into an open house in a designer suit. He paused. But Eleanor, this is risky. If they realize who you are before we're ready, I'll have Julia with me, and you on speed dial. Then let's do it right. I'll prepare documentation. Julia will wire you, and we'll have backup ready. Saturday arrived cold and bright. I stood across the street from my house at 1:50 p.m. Julia stood beside me, dressed like a real estate investor. Blazer, expensive handbag, clipboard. You ready? She asked quietly. No, but I'm doing it anyway. We walked up the driveway at 2:03. 3 other couples were already inside. I could hear Vivian's voice through the open door. Bright, welcoming, playing the role. We stepped inside. The house smelled like cinnamon. Vivian always baked cookies for showings. Staging, she called it. Make it feel like home. This was my home for 36 years. Vivian stood in the foyer with a couple in their 50s. She wore a navy dress and pearls. Her realtor smile. She glanced at me, then at Julia, then back to her clients. No recognition, not even a flicker. Julia touched my elbow. We moved toward the living room. Brandon was there, talking to a young couple about the crown molding. My crown molding. The molding my husband installed the summer before he died. I wanted to scream. Instead, I studied the built-in bookshelves, ran my fingers along the wood. Beautiful craftsmanship, Julia said loudly. Original to the house? Brandon turned, looked right at me. Nothing. His eyes slid past like I was furniture. 1988 construction, he said smoothly. Everything's been maintained beautifully. The owner really cared for this place. The owner, past tense, like I was already dead. We moved through the house. Kitchen, dining room, each room stripped of my presence. They'd removed family photos, my paintings, the antique clock that belonged to my mother. In the master bedroom, Vivian was showing the attached bathroom to an older man in an expensive suit. Renovated 5 years ago, she said. Heated floors, walk-in shower, perfect for aging in place. The man nodded. What's the asking price again? $850,000. But the owner is motivated. Estate sale, estate sale. I was still alive, and she was selling my death. Julia squeezed my arm. A warning. Stay calm. We went back downstairs. More people had arrived. The house was crowded. Vivian worked the room like a politician. I caught Brandon alone in the kitchen. He was arranging cookies on a plate. His hands shook slightly. Excuse me, I said, my voice steady, unfamiliar to my own ears. I have a question about the property. He looked up, smiled. Of course. What would you like to know? Who's selling? It's an estate situation. The owner is no longer able to maintain the property. Is she deceased? He hesitated. Just a moment. It's complicated. I'm sure it is. Something flickered in his eyes. Uncertainty. But then Vivian appeared, her hand on his shoulder. Everything okay here? Just answering questions, Brandon said. Vivian studied me more carefully now. Her smile tightened. Have we met? I don't think so. You look familiar. Julia stepped forward. We're from Seattle. Investment property. Looking at several listings in the area. Vivian relaxed slightly. Well, this is a gem. Excellent bones. Great neighborhood. It won't last long, I'm sure, I said softly. At 2:40, Julia and I stepped onto the front porch. Galen's car pulled up across the street. Right on time. Now? I asked. Now, Julia confirmed. We walked back inside. The crowd had thinned. Just 2 couples remained, and they were heading out. Vivian was packing up her materials. Brandon was in the kitchen. Galen entered through the front door. Suit. Briefcase. Every inch the attorney. Vivian Hayes? He said. She turned. Yes, my name is Galen Maxwell. I represent Eleanor Hayes, the actual owner of this property. The color drained from her face. What are you talking about? This house is not for sale. The power of attorney documents you used to list it are fraudulent, and you are currently trespassing. Brandon appeared in the doorway. Who the hell are you? That's when I stepped forward, removed my sunglasses. Hello, Brandon. He froze, stared, his mouth opened, but no sound came. Mom? Eleanor, actually, since apparently Mom was just another thing you thought you owned. Vivian found her voice first. You can't just... This is insane. You need help. You're not well. I'm well enough to know fraud when I see it. I pulled out my phone, opened the recording app. I'm well enough to record evidence. I'm well enough to hire excellent lawyers. And I'm well enough to stand here in my own house and tell you both that you're done. Brandon stepped forward, his face twisted. You're really doing this? After everything everything we've... Everything you've what? Stolen? Forged? Planned? My voice cracked. Just slightly. I heard you, Brandon. That night in the kitchen. Every word. His face went white. Galen opened his briefcase. I have copies of forged documents, email exchanges with document forgers, evidence of identity theft, credit fraud, and conspiracy to commit financial exploitation. The Oregon Attorney General's office has been notified. So has the FBI.
FBI?
Vivian's voice went shrill. This is ridiculous. She's our family. This is a misunderstanding. It stops being a misunderstanding when you commit multiple felonies. Galen's voice was ice. You have two choices. Cooperate with the investigation or make this much worse for yourselves. Brandon looked at me, really looked at me. Mom, please. We can fix this. Just let's talk. Family doesn't. Family doesn't try to lock their mother in a nursing home and steal her life savings. My hands were shaking. I clasped them together. Family doesn't forge documents. Family doesn't sell someone's house while they're still alive. Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. Then Vivian ran, just bolted for the back door. Julia was faster. She blocked the exit. I wouldn't. Vivian spun around. Her face was ugly now. All pretense gone. You stupid old woman. You were supposed to just go quietly. You were supposed to. Shut up, Viv. Brandon's voice. Broken. Just shut up. But she couldn't stop. We needed that money. Do you understand? We needed it. You were just sitting on it, hoarding it. You're 71 years old. What do you need money for? You're dying anyway. Vivian! Brandon grabbed her arm. Galen was recording every word. So was Julia. So was I. The next hour was a blur. Police arrived. Statements were taken. Brandon sat on my couch. His couch. He'd probably started thinking with his head in his hands. Vivian refused to speak without a lawyer. I stood in my kitchen, my home, and felt nothing but empty. That night, Galen suggested something unexpected. Tell your story. Publicly. There's a local news producer I know. She specializes in consumer protection pieces, elder fraud. This is exactly what she covers. I don't want to be on the news. Not news. Social media. Live stream. Direct to people who need to hear it. He leaned forward. Eleanor, you're not the only person this has happened to, but you're one of the few with the resources and courage to fight back. Your story could help others, so I did it. Julia set up a simple camera in my hotel room. Just me, a chair, the truth. I went live at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday. No script, just talking. My name is Eleanor Hayes. I'm 71 years old, and 3 weeks ago, my family tried to steal everything I've ever worked for. I told the whole story. The doctor's note, the midnight conversation, the forged documents, everything. The viewers started at 20, then 200, then 2,000. Comments flooded in. This happened to my grandmother. My uncle did this to my aunt. Thank you for speaking up. By the time I finished, 12,000 people were watching. 12,000 strangers who understood. The video went viral by morning. News outlets picked it up. A victims advocacy group contacted me. A documentary filmmaker. 3 more lawyers offering help. But the message that mattered most came from an unknown number at 6 a.m. Grandma. It's Paisley. Can we talk? Please, I need to tell you something. I stared at the phone for a long time. Then I texted back. Starbucks on Morrison, 10 a.m. Come alone. Paisley was already there when I arrived. She sat in the corner booth, hood up, sunglasses on, like she was hiding from the world. I bought a coffee I wouldn't drink and slid into the seat across from her. Take off the glasses. She hesitated, then obeyed. Her eyes were red, swollen. She'd been crying for hours, maybe days. Thanks for coming, she said quietly. You have 5 minutes. I'm pregnant. The words hung between us. Simple. Devastating. How far along? 15 weeks. Mom doesn't know. Dad doesn't know. Her voice cracked. Nobody knows except the clinic and me. I kept my face neutral. Gave her nothing. Why are you telling me this? Because they're planning to blame everything on me. She pulled out her phone, showed me a text thread. Her mother to her father. Look at the date. 2 days ago. I read it. Paisley has access to Eleanor's documents. She's been in the house alone. If this goes south, we say she did it without our knowledge. She's a minor. She'll get a slap on the wrist. My hands went cold. Vivian's response. Perfect. We have her signature on some of the bank paperwork anyway. This could actually work. They were going to throw me under the bus, Paisley whispered. Their own daughter. And you're just now having a problem with this? Her face flushed. I know I was part of it. I helped them. I forged your signature on 2 credit card applications. I knew what they were doing, and I thought, you thought you'd get money for college. Yes, she looked down. I'm a terrible person. You're a 17-year-old kid who listened to her parents. That's not the same thing, but I still did it. I sipped my coffee, watched her. She was breaking apart in front of me. What do you want, Paisley? I want to tell the truth. I want to testify. I'll tell them everything Mom and Dad did. The forged documents, the account numbers, all of it. She wiped her eyes. But I need help. With the baby, with school. I can't do this alone. Where's the father? Gone. He doesn't want anything to do with it. I leaned back, studied my granddaughter, really looked at her. She was scared, desperate, but she was here. That counted for something. If you testify, your parents go to prison. You understand that? I know. You'll be alone, except for me. I know. And if you're lying, if this is some scheme they cooked up to get close to me, I will bury you alongside them. Legally. Completely. Do you understand? She met my eyes. I understand. I pulled out my phone, called Galen. I need you to meet someone. 2 days later, Galen called with news that made my stomach drop. They took out a mortgage against your house. $200,000. Forged your signature. Closed 3 weeks ago, before I even left. Yes, the money's gone. Gambling debts. Credit cards. Some went to a contractor who I suspect is fictional. They were moving fast. This wasn't opportunistic, Eleanor. This was systematic. Planned. I closed my eyes. How bad is this legally? Federal crime, mail fraud, wire fraud, mortgage fraud. We're talking 10 years minimum if convicted. 20 if the prosecutor wants to make an example. 20 years. Brandon would be in his 60s when he got out. I need to go back to the house, I said. Get my things. My mother's jewelry. My husband's papers. I need them now before they disappear. I'll arrange it. Court order. Sheriff's escort. Tomorrow morning. The sheriff's deputy was a woman named Torres, mid-40s. Kind eyes. You okay? She asked as we pulled up to my house. No, but I'm doing it anyway. Galen and Julia were already there. So was a locksmith. The locks had been changed. Of course they had. It took 15 minutes to get inside. The house looked different. Furniture rearranged. New curtains. They were already erasing me. I went straight to my bedroom. The jewelry box on the dresser was empty. My mother's pearls. My wedding ring. My grandmother's sapphire brooch. All gone. They sold them, I said numbly. Julia checked her tablet. Pawn shop records show several items matching the description. Sold 2 weeks ago. Total value? $8,000. $8,000 for 3 generations of family history. I opened the closet. My clothes were gone. Replaced with Vivian's things, like I'd never existed. The safe was still there, built into the floor, but they'd tried to drill it open. Scratches around the lock. Failed attempts. They didn't get in. Thank God. I opened it. Birth certificates. Marriage license. Deed to property in Montana nobody knew about. Stock certificates from the 90s. Everything I'd hidden was still there. I loaded it all into boxes. That's when I heard the front door. What the hell is this? Brandon's voice. Angry. Loud. I walked out of the bedroom. Down the stairs. He stood in the foyer, red-faced, shaking. You can't just break into my house. Your house? My voice was quiet, deadly. Show me the deed, Brandon. Show me one legal document that says this is yours. Vivian appeared behind him. She'd been crying, makeup smeared. Eleanor, please. We can fix this. We can. You forged a mortgage. $200,000. Against property you don't own. That's federal prison, Vivian. Her face went white. We needed that money.
Brandon said desperately. I lost everything. The job. The investments. We were drowning. You had so much, and we had nothing. So you decided to steal it. It was going to be mine anyway. His voice cracked. When you die, it was all going to be mine. We just needed it sooner. You tried to put me in a nursing home and take power of attorney so you could drain my accounts while I was still breathing. I stepped closer. That's not inheritance, Brandon. That's murder. Without the body. He flinched like I'd hit him. Deputy Torres moved forward. Sir, you need to leave. Now. This is my house. No, Torres said firmly. It's not. And if you don't leave, I'm arresting you for trespassing. Vivian grabbed Brandon's arm. Come on, let's go. Let's just go. But he pulled away, looked at me with eyes full of something ugly. You were supposed to take care of me. You promised. When you adopted me, you promised I'd always be safe, always be taken care of. You lied. The words hit like bullets. I kept that promise, I said softly. For 43 years, I fed you, clothed you, paid for your college, bailed you out of debt 3 times. 3 times, Brandon. I gave you everything I had. It wasn't enough. It was never going to be enough. Because you don't want a mother. You want an ATM machine that loves you. Silence. Then Vivian's voice. Vicious. You self-righteous old bitch. You think you're better than us? You hoarded money while your own son struggled. What kind of mother does that? The kind who knows the difference between helping and enabling. I turned to Torres. I'm done here. Get them out. As they were escorted out, Brandon looked back once. I'll never forgive you for this. I know, I said. I'll have to live with that. But the truth was, I could live with it. Because the alternative was dying while they picked my corpse clean. That evening, Paisley came to my hotel. She sat on the edge of the bed, hands folded in her lap. I talked to the prosecutor today, gave my statement, all of it. How do you feel? Terrified. She looked up at me. They're going to hate me forever. Probably. Was I wrong? To betray them like this? I sat down beside her. You didn't betray them. They betrayed you first. They were willing to destroy your life to save theirs. You're just choosing not to go down with them. It doesn't feel like the right thing. It rarely does. But it's the true thing. And sometimes, that's all we have. She leaned against my shoulder, started crying. I put my arm around her, held her while she broke. What happens now? She whispered. Now you're on my side. And my side protects each other, no matter what. Promise? Promise. We sat there, in the quiet. 2 people who'd lost a family. 2 people trying to build something new from the wreckage. Outside, sirens wailed. The city moved on. Life continued. But in that moment, everything had changed. The trial was set for 6 weeks out. Federal prosecutors, multiple charges. Galen estimated they'd both get 10 to 15 years if convicted. Paisley would testify. So would I. So would Dr. Elliott. The paper trail was damning. But the hardest part wasn't the legal battle. It was accepting that the son I'd loved, the family I'd built, the life I'd sacrificed for, all of it was gone. Not stolen, not destroyed, just revealed for what it never really was. And somehow, in losing everything, I'd found something I'd forgotten, myself. The trial lasted 4 days. I sat in the courtroom and watched my son. He wore a navy suit I'd bought him for his 40th birthday. His hair was graying at the temples. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. The prosecution presented their case methodically. Bank records, forged signatures, email exchanges with document forgers, the mortgage fraud, everything laid out in clinical detail. Vivian sat beside her lawyer, stone-faced. She'd stopped crying by day 2. Paisley testified on day 3. She wore a simple black dress. Her voice shook but held steady. Yes, I helped them. Yes, I knew it was wrong. Yes, I'm ashamed. The defense attorney tried to shake her. Isn't it true you're only testifying to avoid charges yourself? I'm testifying because my parents were willing to destroy me to save themselves. And because my grandmother deserves the truth. Brandon's lawyer didn't put him on the stand. Smart. He would have crumbled. Dr. Elliott testified about the phone calls, the pressure, the request to declare me incompetent. I've treated Hayes for 18 years. She's sharper than most 40-year-olds. There was no medical basis for what they were asking me to do. Julia Deacon presented the evidence trail. Every forged document, every stolen dollar, every lie. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty. On all counts. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Brandon, 12 years federal prison. Vivian, 14 years. The judge's words still echo in my mind. You targeted a vulnerable person who trusted you completely. You exploited that trust for personal gain. And when confronted, you showed no remorse. This court finds your actions particularly egregious given the familial relationship. Brandon looked at me once as they led him away. His eyes were empty. I don't think he understood even then, but I did. I understood that love, real love, isn't about blood or obligation. It's about respect, protection, truth. And what we'd had wasn't love. It was dependence dressed up in sentiment. 6 months later, I bought a small house in Encinitas, just north of San Diego. 3 bedrooms, ocean view, garden space, room to breathe. Paisley moved in 2 weeks before the baby came. A girl, 7 pounds, 3 ounces. She had Paisley's dark hair and serious eyes. We named her Helen, after my mother. I held her in the hospital, this tiny, perfect thing, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Paisley finished her GED online, applied to community college. She wanted to study law, elder law. She told me, I want to help people like you. People like me don't need help. We need people to stop assuming we're weak. She smiled. Then I want to help people before they become like you, so they don't have to fight alone. I couldn't argue with that. Life settled into rhythms. Morning walks on the beach, Helen's 2 a.m. feedings, Paisley's study sessions at the kitchen table. We built routines, small, ordinary moments that felt like miracles. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this story needed to be told. Not just my story, all of our stories. So I started a foundation, the Eleanor Hayes Foundation for Elder Protection. We offered free legal consultations, educational workshops, resources for families in crisis. The first workshop drew 12 people. The second drew 40. By month 6, we had 300 people on our mailing list. Elderly people who'd been scammed by contractors. Families torn apart by inheritance disputes. Adult children struggling with aging parents and financial strain. So many stories. So much pain. But also resilience. Courage. People fighting back. I hired Julia as our lead investigator. She trained volunteers on recognizing elder abuse red flags. Galen joined our board of directors pro bono. We weren't saving everyone, but we were helping, and that felt like enough. Brandon writes sometimes, letters from prison. They're short, formal. He never apologizes. Just updates about his appeal, his prison job, his health. I read them. Don't respond. I'm not ready for that yet. Maybe I never will be. Vivian hasn't written once. I heard through Paisley's aunt that she's working in the prison library, teaching literacy classes. Maybe she's finding something like redemption. I hope so. Not for her sake. For mine. Because carrying hatred is exhausting, and I'm too old to waste energy on people who can't change. Paisley asks sometimes if I regret it. The charges, the trial, everything. Do you wish you'd just walked away? Let them have the money? No. Why not? Because silence is permission, and I was done giving permission for people to treat me like I didn't matter. She nods. Thanks about this. I'm glad you fought back. Me too. Helen is 8 months old now. She's learning to crawl. She pulls herself across the living room floor toward the windows, toward the light. Paisley watches her with this fierce, protective love. The same way I watched Brandon once. But it's different, too. Because Paisley learned what I didn't teach Brandon. That love requires boundaries. That family can hurt you. That sometimes the bravest thing is walking away. I think about that doctor's note sometimes. 6 words that saved my life. Don't go home. Get away. Run. I didn't run. Not really. I fought. I stood my ground. I reclaimed my story. But I did get away. Away from the version of myself that apologized for existing. That made herself smaller. so others could feel bigger. That confused sacrifice with love. I'm 72 now. I have a granddaughter who's rebuilding her life. A great-granddaughter who doesn't know yet how cruel the world can be. A foundation that helps people who've been where I was. I have a small house by the ocean. Books I want to read. Places I want to see. Time that belongs to me. People ask if I'm lonely. If I miss my son. I miss the son I thought I had. The one who existed in my imagination. The one I built from hope and devotion. But the real Brandon? The one who saw me as an obstacle to wealth? I don't miss him at all. Because that person never loved me. He loved what I could provide. And I'm done being a resource. I'm a person. Flawed, aging, imperfect. But mine. Finally mine. Last week, Paisley graduated from community college. Associate's degree. She's transferring to San Diego State in the fall. Pre-law. We threw a small party. Just us and a few friends from the foundation. Helen ate cake with both hands. Made a glorious mess. I sat on the porch afterward. Watched the sun set over the Pacific. Orange and pink bleeding into purple. The day ending. Something new beginning. Paisley brought me tea. Sat beside me. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For not giving up on me. For seeing that I was different from them. You are different. You chose to. So did you. We sat in comfortable silence. Watched the waves. Listened to Helen babbling inside. This wasn't the family I planned. Not the life I imagined. But it was real. It was honest. It was built on truth instead of obligation. And that made it worth everything I'd lost. If you're listening to this, if you've made it this far, I want you to know something. You're not alone. If your family has hurt you, if people you trusted have betrayed you, if you're carrying shame for someone else's choices, you're not alone, and you're not powerless. Even at 71, even when everyone assumes you're too old, too weak, too confused to fight back, you're not. I'm not special. I'm not particularly brave. I was just a woman who got tired of being treated like she didn't matter, and I decided that was enough. You can decide that too. Today, right now, your life belongs to you, not your children, not your family, not anyone who thinks your value is measured in what you can provide them. You. Stand up, speak up, fight back. You're worth it, I promise. The waves keep rolling in. Helen keeps growing. Paisley keeps studying. And I keep waking up every morning in a house that's mine, in a life that's mine, with people who choose to be here, not because they have to, but because they want to. That's not revenge. That's not even justice. That's freedom. And at 72 years old, I'm finally learning what that means. My name is Eleanor Hayes. I live in Encinitas, California. I survived my family's attempt to erase me, and I'm still here, still fighting. Still believing that we're never too old to start over. Thank you for listening to my story, for staying with me through the hard parts, for believing that even the darkest stories can end with light. If this story meant something to you, if it helped you feel less alone, I hope you'll subscribe to Grandmama Radio. Hit that like button, turn on notifications, because there are so many more stories that need to be told. Stories of survival, of courage, of people who refuse to disappear quietly. Your story matters. My story matters. All of our stories matter. And together, we're stronger than anyone who tried to silence us. Thank you. And remember, you're never too old to reclaim your life. Never.